This is an OMNY card, and it is at the center of what will probably be the greatest change for transit in New York City in decades. But better yet, this card can show us how small changes to transit can have a massive impact on people's lives and transit systems. If you're wondering, is this guy really gonna make a 10-minute plus video about bus cards? Welcome to RM Transit. For a bit of a special announcement, stick around till the end of the video, or remember to check the end of the video, whichever you prefer. So if you're wondering, yes, OMNY cards are now available, albeit since this is 2021, they are available in very limited numbers. I actually got this one on StockX. Okay, no, I'm kidding. I traveled to New York. As for how I traveled to New York between endless hours of transit tomfoolery, Twitter scrolling, and video scripting, well, the 7-Eleven at Flatbush and Fulton in Brooklyn actually has them, or at least it did have them before the transit fans got hold. Okay, that's not actually true. I didn't travel to New York as much as I would have loved to. I will, just not yet. COVID is still a thing. Friend of the channel and all-around friend of transit, Hassan Kazi, actually connected with me and got me up in Canada an OMNY card. Hassan also provided me with tons of other nerdy facts about the system. Go follow him on Twitter, somewhere over here. And also consider following me on Twitter and Instagram because yeah, I posted about this a little while ago. So if you were, you would have found out early. Cool. Now, before I talk about why this card is such a big deal, indulge me in a little transit fare card nerdiness, will you? The OMNY card has a number of surprising and interesting design elements that I think make it a transit card worthy of New York City, one of the greatest transit cities in the world, if I'm being honest. For one, it's a vertically oriented card, which is relatively unique in the world of transit cards, especially for major cities, and so that's pretty cool. For two, it's black, and apparently that's because the designers wanted to give it a bit of a premium feel, which, premium transit? I like it, that's pretty cool. I found that out in a Curbed article, which I will link in the description. Now, the OMNY logo itself is meant to be an homage to railway tracks. Notice how there are two lines forming all of the letters? That's quite cool, though I do think it's a little too narrow-minded given this card should really be the card for all mobility in the New York metropolitan area. Finally, notice the weird stripy part of the card here. Yep, that's actually a barcode, if you've ever seen one of those. The reason for that is actually fantastic though. In Toronto with our Presto cards, we can't actually reload them at just any little convenience store, and the reason for that is that the reader needed to write to this card is specialized, and most convenience stores don't have them. Distributing them would, I guess, be too much of a headache. So essentially, we have one option, Shoppers Drug Mart, to reload our transit fare cards beyond subway and train stations. The great thing about OMNY and its barcode is that due to this barcode, it can be written to from a much wider array of convenience stores across New York, meaning that even if you can't get to a subway station, you can reload your card, which is awesome and wasn't necessarily true of the previous fare card in New York. That's awesome, and it's a big improvement over the previous useful as long as you're close to a subway station to fill it up card in New York. I should also mention that despite the barcode, the card will still be used with a tap generally, meaning it's basically like every other transit fare card. Now, as it turns out, the first place in the world to implement a transit smart card was Korea, which is maybe not so surprising given their incredible rise to technology dominance in the last couple decades. Now, I'm going to make a bit of a controversial statement here. I think the creation of transit smart cards was up there with the creation of high-speed rail as one of the greatest achievements in transit history. Why? Because it makes it so much easier and more accessible to use transit, especially in large metropolitan regions with tons of different operators, fare zones, and fares. You have to remember that actually managing millions often of transit accounts with different fare products, etc., and tons of disparate infrastructure at different stations, on mobile vehicles, and the like is really complicated. And so transit smart cards are actually still a marvel of technology in my personal opinion. And hey, I have a degree in that, so I think my opinion's worth something. With smart cards, passengers no longer need to carry tickets or change, or fumble with ticket machines that chronically feel like they're running a 20-year-old version of Windows. And this was and is a complete game changer. Of course, the fact that these cards tend to be connected to pretty modern back-end IT systems means you tend to also get access to an online web account that lets you reload your card remotely, as well as mark it as lost and retrieve your balance if you manage to drop your card onto the subway tracks or lose it. Now, the astute among you, or probably just the rail fans, will be quick to mention,
New York already had a fare card. It's called the MetroCard.
And you're right, technically. But I've got to be clear, the MetroCard was not particularly smart, which you'll know if you ever tried to swipe it and then received organ damage from a turnstile hitting you in the gut. But seriously, the MetroCard just isn't on the cutting edge these days, with its magnetic stripe that is now replaced with an RFID chip in the newer OMNY card. It wasn't looped into a modern account system, reloading it was a pain, you couldn't just tap your way to transit bliss, you had to swipe, and it's super flimsy, which, I'm sorry, what is this? Saran wrap? Plus, to be fair, not having to touch something with your hands during a global pandemic, it's a bonus. Now, all of these benefits of OMNY seem to be pretty cool for the average rider, but how does it actually benefit the community and the transit network at whole? Well, the New York City subway alone had 5 million riders per day pre-COVID. We'll get back to it eventually. Which means that even if the more seamless and convenient elements of OMNY only save the average rider 5 seconds per day on average, that is almost 7,000 hours of time saved every single day in New York City. If you're a Wall Street type and assume everyone gets paid minimum wage, that's over $100,000 of economic activity you could be creating just by changing to a more convenient fare card. On the other hand, OMNY has also enabled open payment, which means you can pay with a credit card, a debit card, or just your phone with a credit card or a debit card on it. What that means is someone getting out of a meeting or a show or who just doesn't regularly use transit can actually easily and conveniently use it without having to feel like they might have to have an awkward conversation with the bus driver or hold people up not knowing how to pay their fare. They can just tap their credit card and go, and that'll probably divert people who might have otherwise done something like called an Uber, and that is fantastic. The new system should also save the MTA a lot of money, and I mean a lot, because it will likely mean a lot of old infrastructure that no longer needs to be maintained, and still less cash and bills to be handled than with the MetroCard system. They'll probably need less ticket machines in general as well, since a lot of regular commuters are just going to load this thing up on the internet, or at their local convenience store or bodega. And let's be honest, the OMNY card looks so much better than the MetroCard. Essentially, when you take a small positive change and you expand it over the scale of a massive transit system, the impact is huge. Of course, it's not just what OMNY enables though, it's what it shows the community and transit riders. There are very few changes to a transit system that will impact every bus, every subway station, and every single rider on the system, and that will be so incredibly visible. In the same way a transit system logo, like the MTA logo or the London Underground roundel, sticks out and becomes a part of the fabric of the city, the transit fare card does as well. It shows people that money is going into the system and that improvements are being made so they can have better and more convenient lives even if they don't spend their time driving around and polluting the city. I can relate to how big of a deal a transit smart card can be, even just as a bus rider. I used to ride the public transit bus in Vancouver to high school, and I would always have to ask my mom to give me some change so I could get on the bus. Otherwise, it would be an awkward conversation and a very long walk. Of course, I could have got tickets, but that required driving to the suburban mall to go to the one store that actually sold them. Not great. Once the Compass card was a thing, I never really had to worry about change. I was able to connect my card to my bank account and I could ride to school whenever I wanted. Tap and you're away. Now, the OMNY card is far from perfect. For one, it's not rolled out on Metro North and Long Island Railroad yet, much less the subway system which you shall not take photographs of. But it is coming, which is good. Perhaps worse, the system does not have unlimited ride options or time transfers yet, but again, those are coming and this system will support them. The cherry on top, as you might expect, goes to New Jersey, who, through much deliberation, have decided to go with a different card system, which means that you won't be able to use your integrated fare card a few miles away from New York, which sucks. Come on, you know you want OMNY. That all said, OMNY has a super bright future. There's no reason that someday it couldn't be used to pay for all transit and mobility services in the New York region. City Bike as well. And if we took some inspiration from Japan, maybe someday it could extend across the whole Northeast, though again, the name may need to change in that case. A fully integrated fare card across the Northeast would be pretty awesome, and it would make transit just that much easier and more worry-free for riders. At the end of the day, a new transit fare card is just one of those things that makes transit so much easier for riders, and that just broadly makes transit systems better, more technically advanced, and more convenient. And that should really be the goal. While a single change like Omni may not seem earth-shattering to you, it's the sum of changes like this that truly can transform a transit system, and that's why I think it's such a huge deal. Now, before I make my announcement, I want to give a shout out to Ayinde Stevens, who provided a lot of the photos I used in this video. He's a New York-based photographer with some great skills on Instagram that I really wish I had. You should check him out with his handle, which is somewhere on screen right now. So now, the announcement. So with my move and the fact that the channel has been growing a lot, and with the fact that I've been making videos regularly for over a year now without any breaks, yay, I'm bringing back the RM Transit PO Box. With the power of the PO Box, I can receive paper email, which is an amazing technology that allows you to send me a physical copy of an email. You can send me a letter if you want, and I would super appreciate it, but you could also send me transit maps or other transit-related stuff or transit fare cards. I'm a bit of a collector. Now, before you drop the letter into the mailbox, I have a Google form down below. Unless you're absolutely sure that the thing you're sending me is something that I don't already have, please just put it in the form, submit it, and we'll send you an email back that you're good to go and that I don't already have that fare card or map. That'll save time for everyone and reduce the amount of mail we send. Of course, just generally emailing would be excellent if you're planning on sending something or if you have sent something so that I know to watch out for it. Now, I'm going to open any mail I receive on my live streams, which happen every 2 weeks or so, around the beginning of the stream. So if you want to catch it, you can catch me, open the stuff, and then head off to whatever else you have to do that day. Importantly, if you do not want me to shout you out on the stream, make sure to leave a note somewhere so that it's clearly visible, so that I open it, I see, hey, this person doesn't want me to scream their name to however many people are watching the stream, and I will follow your wishes. Now, I would be lying if I said there weren't a few fare cards I'm hunting for in particular. They're mostly from Canada, but not entirely. If you're able to find me one of these, that's major brownie points. For one, I'm really looking for the Canada 150 Compass card. I'd also really like the Canada Goose Presto card, which would complete my collection, and that would be truly glorious. If you have an ARC card that you're willing to send me, that would be very cool. And just in general, if you have an awesome or unique fare card that you don't really want to hold on to, I would happily add it to my collection. So that's the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.